Not too long ago, I had a very big problem. One of my favorite things in the world is the small little gummy candy known as Sour Patch Kids. And my stash was disappearing. Not just by 1 or 2 gummies, but by entire handfuls. And the prime suspect was my sister. Isn't she cute? Now, I could have confronted her like a normal person. Instead, I thought, well, I'm learning computer vision. Why not? What if I use AI to catch her in the act? So, I planted my old phone inside of our pantry and had it stream video to my laptop. Then I fine-tuned a computer vision model to detect when someone was walking into the pantry. Essentially, every time someone walked into the pantry, the camera would start recording, and then afterwards, they would save it to my laptop. By the end of the week of the system that I had set up, I had an album chock full of amazing videos of my sister. This is all censored, but amazing videos of my sister absolutely stuffing herself with gummies. This is my first use of AI at home. And what surprised me the most wasn't that it worked, it was how normal it felt. There was no big lime green lines of code all over my walls, or big data centers required, just my phone, my laptop, an open source model, and a lot of patience. And this shifted my idea on AI as well. Because when most people think of AI, they think of one thing. They think of a chatbot. You type to it, and then you type to it, and then it types back to you. And that's good. These tools are amazing. I use them as well. But that image is much too narrow. AI is not just one chatbot, but rather an entire toolbox of tools. And narrowing the view of AI down to just the chatbot on my screen removes the idea that AI models can be adapted for small, specific, personal problems by regular people. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm not going to try and convince you to create the next ChatGPT, but I am going to show you how to stop looking at AI like something, like just a product that you can consume, and start seeing it as a tool that you can use to point at specific problems in your life and solve them both portably and creatively. But first, let's take a step back. What are we actually even talking about here? What is AI? Well, AI is a pretty broad category, and most models, or most types of AI systems that you interact with are going to be machine learning models, which just mean it's a system that learns patterns from data and uses those patterns to make predictions. Essentially, you give it a bunch of data, and it connects that data to make patterns, and then uses those patterns to make predictions and answer your questions. Now next, what is a model? A model is the part of the AI system that is the one doing the learning. You can think of it as a student, a very specialized student that maybe you give a lot of problems of a specific kind to, and it gets very, very good at answering a very specific type of question. Maybe you have a model that's very good at detecting speech within an audio file or detecting a specific object within an image. Now, what is a large language model, or an LLM? An LLM is a specific type of model that is trained on hordes and hordes of text. It's trained on almost all the books, articles, websites, even YouTube transcripts that you can imagine. And so, as you can imagine, it gets very good at detecting and generating, or it gets good at generating text in language and predicting what might come next in a sentence. And your favorite chatbots are all built on top of LLMs and then packaged in a very nice, pretty chatbot interface. But LLMs are not the only type of model. There are plenty of models. There's speaking and listening models. There's image models. There's also models that are very good at looking at categorical sort of data, like in spreadsheets. And then there's models that do all of the above. Now, let's talk about the more confusing thing, and that's what does training a model mean? Or I guess rather, what even is training what even is training in this context? Training in this context is a literal action of giving your data over to your model. And training a model entails, for large models, entails crazy amounts of money, very large amounts of computer power, and large data sets. For you and me, though, what's most effective for us is to find open source models online that already do sort of what we want it to do, and then to take them and fine-tune them for our own specific problems. So I'm going to give you the workflow that I kind of used for the computer vision project I told you about at the beginning of this talk. First is to collect data. So for me, of course, that was my sister or anyone inside of our pantry. But for any sort of computer vision model that you're training, you might want your dog, or you might want someone putting a package on your porch, or maybe a specific hand gesture. And then 2 is to label your data. So you want to be able to tell your model what part of the image is the most important part, the part that you want it to focus on. So for me, that would be like literally pointing out my sister in the image. For object detection, it's very literally drawing a box around the part of the model that you want your model to focus on. 3 would be to fine-tune. So this is just training. This is giving the image to your model. Then you can test, and then you can improve and repeat. So say maybe you're testing your model, and then all of a sudden, maybe in very low light conditions, the accuracy rate just drops immediately. What you can do is then go back to step 1, collect more data of your object in those low light conditions, and then test it, and then you'll see that your accuracy in those low light conditions actually improves. Now, when most people talk about AI, they usually talk about the big picture, right? They talk about society and education and the economy, right? But I also care about a smaller metamorphosis, and that's the metamorphosis and that's inspiring other people to become more instead of becoming consumers of AI solely, to also become creators of AI. To train AI, you don't need to be a software engineer, and you don't have to be a software engineer for it to make use for you. You could be a musician and implement your own audio model to have it so every time, like the visuals of your set correspond with your music. You could be a family setting up a visual model next to on your porch to detect porch pirates. Or you could be a student that implements a vision model to be able to detect when you're slouching and give yourself a little notification, a reminder to, stand up straighter. My goal of this talk isn't to convince you to become an entire software engineer. Rather, it's to encourage you that even if you're a little bit interested in what this might hold, for you to try it. I'm not the only person who's ever talked about this, ever. There's plenty of tutorials, software, and articles on how to train your own AI model. And they're all very easy, trust me. My goal is to inspire you to just try it out if you ever are interested. All you really need is a little bit of determination and a little bit of perseverance. When I started training AI, it felt distant, it felt hard, and it felt confusing. When I actually began, it didn't feel less powerful. The technology felt less intimidating, and that's important. Because when something feels less intimidating, it feels learnable. When something feels learnable, it feels usable. And that's the type of future I want to encourage. More people using AI, not only as a product they consume, but as a tool that they can adapt. Thank you.